Hello everyone, welcome to KSM 3413 Statistics 1. In this video, I'm going to share about standard normal distribution, the use of z-scores and how to compute z-scores and use it for interpretation purposes. Okay, so far what we have done. So in before the semester break, what we did was we received a pool of data, okay, and once we have the data, we organize them, summarize them. Okay, so that is what we have been doing all this while before the semester break. So once you get a pool of data, you sort it out or you organize them either graphically or in empirical way. So graphical meaning that you summarize the information into charts. So you portray the data that you get, you organize them, and then you visualize the data. So it can be in terms of bar graph, box plot, or histogram. So the other way is we use the numbers, the empirical values to organize the information. So how did we organize? We started with frequency table, and from frequency table we can actually transform the frequencies into proportions, or you can transform to or convert it into percentages. Why do we do that? Because we would like to explain better, because we could not, it will not be nice to say that okay, 10 out of 100, 10 out of 10,000 students performed in this way. It's better to say that 50% of the population or 50% of the sample. So we know that it is much easier to understand how much of the information is being presented. So once we have organized them into frequency table, we actually wanted to know further, right? So not just how many percent, but we would like to know um, the the description of the data distribution of the data that we have received. So if you have a big pool of data, we always want to know, we cannot be explaining every score in the data. It's not possible and it's not feasible. So what we need to do is we actually calculated single scores that can represent the entire distribution. So that's when we learn about central tendency. So what is the middle point? What is the central point of the data? Okay, what is the representative score of the entire distribution? So that's when we learn about the mode, median, and the mean. So after that we said that okay, that is just a single score of the data. So we would like to know about the variability that happens in the data. So are they similar, or are they clustered together to the closer to the mean, or are they far from the mean? So in terms of measures of variability, we learn about range, variance, and standard deviation. So what we are going to do next is, and also in up to your end of the semester or end of the courses, we are mostly going to use the mean and the standard deviation from the sample to make inferences, to use it to interpret more, to understand more about the data. So as a first step is, what we would like to do is we are going to use the mean and the standard deviation information. Firstly, we would like to explain about individual scores. And then in couple of weeks, we are going to see how we are using the mean and standard deviation to understand or to compare data, to compare between groups, or to find out relationships, okay, to understand further about our data. So that's how it's actually connected. So the first part is all descriptive statistics. So up to finding mean, standard deviation, it is descriptive statistics. Now we are going to move on to inferential. Before moving into inferential, making use to make comparison, we still in a very early stage of inferences, so it's still descriptive. So what we're going to find here is, we would like to identify or explain the individual scores that we have in our data. So what we are going to do is we are going to use the mean and standard deviation to transform it into or compute a z-score, and these z-score will help us explain the location of individual scores. So let's see what it means. So what is a z-score? It is a technique used using mean and standard deviation to transform the scores into a standard score or a z-score. So what we are doing is we have a list of scores that is labeled as x, okay, and we have the mean of the population and the standard deviation of the population. Then what we are going to do is we would like to use the z-scores. Okay, what we are actually doing is we are using the raw scores to convert it into the z-score. We are changing, like remember when we are doing frequencies, we change frequencies into proportion. So now we are converting our raw scores into a z-score. So in order to convert it, we need to have a formula. So that is this formula, the z-score formula. X is your scores minus the mu is the population mean, and this difference will be divided by the standard deviation. So what will happen once we convert it to the z-score? We will compare the z-scores to the tabled z-score values. Okay, so we will compare it to make interpretations. Okay, sounds very dry. Okay, so let's look at an example. Okay, let's see, the examples are in the red. Okay, so let's say that we have computed or set for an IQ test. So once you sit for a test, you get a score, you get a value. So what does this value actually mean? Okay, so if we get an IQ score of 150, so what it means? Is it good? Is it bad? So what happens? So what we need to do is we have to transform these value into a z-score value. Okay, using the mean and standard deviation of a specific population. Okay, let's say that you would like to get into world famous Harvard University, and in this Harvard University they are having an IQ test score. Okay, so they say that only the cream out of the cream, the most smartest people on earth can study in Harvard University. So what happens? So they want to see that on average they already have on average IQ, average of students IQ in their university, and you set for the IQ test and you get 150. So will you get accepted or will you get rejected? Are you above the average of the Harvard students IQ test or are you below? So you want to know. That helps the university to make decision in terms of accepting you or rejecting your application. So what they have to do is, with the 150 score that you get, you have to convert it into a z-score. So how do we convert it? Using the formula. So in that formula you need three information. Firstly, you need your score. Second is the mean of the population score for the IQ at the Harvard University, and the standard deviation of the population of the Harvard University students IQ test. So once you convert it, you actually get a z-score value. So this z-score value can be used in finding the proportion or the percentage, whether you are in the top 10 or you're below. So at least it gives us a location. Okay, it tells us a location, whether you are above, below, and how much above or how below are you of the average IQ test. So with that information, the universities, if you are applying for it, the university can decide whether to accept you or to reject you. Or in other terms is, we are having anxiety test. So you get a score, and then you cannot once you get a score for anxiety, you need to compare it with the population of people who has anxiety. So like to see whether you are above or below. If you're below, it's good. If you're above, how above are you? Is it like in a critical zone, you need to get treatment, you need to get help, or you're above but it is not severe, you still can manage it? So it actually helps us to decide what will be the next step for the person. So the z-score transformation is helpful in two ways. Okay, so once you transform the raw score into a z-score, it helps you in two ways. How? Firstly is the location. It helps us to identify where is this score located. Are you above the mean, below the mean? If you are below the mean, how far are you? If you are above the mean, how far are you? How far above the mean? Okay, so it actually gives you the exact location. So the positive and negative signs that you will get on the z-score tells us whether you are above or you are below. Okay, it is the z-score is actually the distance from the mean by counting the number of standard deviation between the mean and the between the z-score and the mu. So it actually tries to tell us how far, the location, okay, the units of the distance between you and the average values. Second is it helps us to give help us to do standardization. What do you mean by standardization? Okay, in when you're collecting data, sometimes you collect information about somebody's height, and you also collect about weight. Okay, height is measured in centimeters, meters, different unit. Weight is being measured in pounds or kilograms. So if you want to make a comparison between height and weight, okay, they are coming in a different format of metrics, measures. So one is measured in kilogram, one is measured in centimeters or meters. So how are you going to make comparisons? You need to put them on the same scale. You have to transform them into the same scale. So same like mathematics, when we learn, we usually do a lot of transformation, like from kilometers to meters, and then from meters to centimeters. Why? Because we would like to make the comparison to ease the comparison. It has to be on the same scale in order to make the comparisons. Okay. So what happens if all these z-scores are being transformed? The, the nice part is, the beautiful part is, once we transform all the raw scores to the z-score, you will get a distribution like a bell-shaped curve, or like a bell. You know, like, have you seen a bell? So the bell, even on the YouTube there is a notification bell. So the bell-shaped curve, okay, curve. So what does this bell-shaped curve trying to say? So the shape is of the distribution. It tells you the shape of a distribution, and the distribution will have the same shape as the raw score. Remember, raw score, we are only changing the appearance. You're just changing it into a different matrix, or into a different units. Okay, just like from meters to centimeters. Okay, so if you change 1 meter to centimeters, the distance is the same. It's just that the metric that you use is different. So same thing here, the z-score is just a transformation. Okay, just like transforming your raw scores into z-score. So your raw score could be like centimeters, your z-score is like meters. So you're just converting it. Okay, in mathematics, when you're converting, you have a formula. So here, when you are converting your data, your raw scores into a z-score, you need a formula as well. Okay, so firstly, the shape will be like a bell curve. What is next? What is the next characteristics of the z-score distribution? The z-score distribution will have a mean of a zero, value of a zero, and the standard deviation of 1 unit. So when you add all the transform z-score and you take an average, you will get a zero value. And when you use the z transformed values and calculate the standard deviation, you will get a value of 1. So how does this standard normal distribution look? Okay, let's introduce to you the standard normal distribution. So if you notice, on the right hand side, the distribution, or the image, there is a bell-shaped curve. It is like a curve that resembles like a bell. Okay, that is the standard normal distribution curve. Okay, so when you plot all the transform z scores, you will get this kind of a bell-shaped curve. So in the middle is the mean. So with the mean and then standard deviation of 1 unit. So from 0 is in the middle, that is the mean. So from mean there is 1 unit, 1 standard deviation, and then you add one more, becomes 2 standard deviation from the mean. Then you add one more, becomes 3 standard deviation from the mean. So the distance increases by 1 unit, just like your ruler. Okay, so but just your ruler starts, the zero starts in the very end. So here it is in the middle. So from there, so 1 standard deviation above, 2 standard deviation above the mean, and 3 standard deviation above the mean. So the best part of this standard normal distribution is it is symmetrical. What do we mean by symmetrical? Meaning the values, the size of the area under the curve below the mean and above the mean is equivalent. That's why you say that, okay, below the mean is -1, -2, -3. Above is 1, 2, 3. So the standard deviation is the same. The distance is the same. One is below, so it is denoted as with a negative. One is above. Okay, so basically the distance are the same. Okay, and if you remember when you were learning mathematics and integral, area under the curve, the entire area under the curve will be equivalent to 1 or 100%. So when this bell curve, okay, all this area, all the one that's shaded, be under the graph is equivalent to 1. So what happens next is we can actually calculate each of the shaded areas under the curve. So from 0 to 1, what is the area under the curve? How much is this area? So you can actually calculate it using integral. But are we going to do that? No, we are not going to do that. Okay, there was a kind person who already computed for us. So the area under the curve between 0 and 1 is 0.34. Okay, that is the area under the curve. So we convert it into percentages. So it becomes 34%. Okay, so the distance between mean from one standard deviation is computed as 34%. Okay, so from 0 to from 1 to 2 is going to be 13.5%. So if you want to say that from 0 to 2, then the area will be 34 plus 13.5. So when you add all these areas, okay, from above the mean, it will give you 50%. So 34 plus 13.5 plus 2.5, you'll get 50%. And the same thing, if you do it on the other side, 0 to -1 is 34, -1 to -2 is 13.5, and -2 to -3 is 2.5%. So when you add all, it becomes 50. Okay, so what does this bell curve is trying to tell us is in the middle you have more people, more similar values to the mean. So and then towards when you're going further and further from the mean, it will become smaller areas, smaller percentages of people, which is pretty much common, right? So when if you think about it in real life or anything, a lot of us are on the average side. Okay, so average income, average education, average CGPA. How many of you are? How many is like? Can we say that? Is that in the class everybody gets a 4 flat, or everybody gets a 2? You know, opposite. No, most of you guys get on the average, which is like 3 to 3.5. Okay, so that is the range. And even if you talk about the wealth, okay, a lot of us are in the average wealth status. Very hardly we have like people extremely rich. We will have, okay, but the proportion is very small. So that is what this is also trying to illustrate. Okay, so most of the time the information that we gather are around the mean, but the extreme values will be smaller, just and then it is like far from the mean, so the proportion becomes smaller as well. That's why when you see that the area under the curve between 2 and 3, or -2 and -3, is only 2.5%, because the area is becoming smaller, okay, and it is far from the average. Okay, so how does this standard normal distribution helps? Okay, so it actually acts as a ruler. Okay, why do we use a ruler? We would like, ruler is a standardized tool, standardized instrument that can be used to measure accurately the length of an object. So here the normal distribution is used as a ruler to help measure, okay, and to help understand our data better. So there are about 3 scenarios where we can use this standard normal distribution as a ruler to estimate the proportion or the percentages. Okay, firstly is when you want to find an area between the mean and the specified z-score. Okay, so we have given the mean, and then the red box is actually trying to say from the mean to the particular z-score. So we can actually find this area, and this area can be converted into percentages. Next scenario is finding the area of the scores opposite of the mean. So there is a score below the mean and above the mean. So this is the shaded area within the red box. So we want to find that particular area to and convert it into percentages so that we can interpret the results. Finally is finding an area above positive or negative scores. So what happens here is we have shaded a positive z-score. So it is actually trying to find the area above that particular score. So it can be a negative score, it can be a positive. So the box can be on the below or above the mean. Okay, so let's look at how these 3 scenarios are being can be used in a real setting, okay, and how to compute it. Firstly, finding the area between mean and specified z-score. Okay, so that was the first scenario, that the standard normal distribution. So the scenario is, let's say that you have a group of students quiz score, okay, and you would like to compare this person's quiz score to the former group's quiz scores. Okay, so you want to know whether this student, how well did the student score. Okay, what is the percentage of student who scored between the mean and a particular 85. Okay, so you would like to know what is the percentage. Okay, and in this data you have the mean of 70.7, standard deviation of 10.27. Okay, so what we need to do, the first step is we have to convert our raw scores into the z-score. So you need to convert the 85 into a z-score. How do we do that? Using the formula. So for the z formula, 85 minus 70.7 divided by 10.27. So what is the value that you get? It's 1.45. So with this 1.45, you are using the z normal distribution table. Okay, in the previous standard normal distribution curve, you notice that if you have a z-score of 1, so from 0 to 1, the proportion is going to be 0.34. But here you have to notice that it is 1.45. So you have to find out the exact area from 0 to 1.45. So in the standard normal distribution table, this is how the standard normal distribution table looks like. Okay, and here if you notice, this is the area between mean and the z-score. So you look at the B column, the A column is actually the z-score. So our z-score is 1.45, and this is the B column that we look at because we are finding an area between the mean and the z. Okay, so you get 0.4625. So this is the proportion. All these values are the proportion, the column B and C. So you get 0.4265. Then you translate the proportion into percentages. You multiply by 100, you get 42.65. So that is going to be our answer. So 42.65% of students scored between 70.7 and 85, between the mean and 85, because the mean is 70.7. The second scenario. Okay, in the second scenario is the finding the area for two scores on the opposites of the mean. Okay, so scenario 2 is, suppose we want to find the number of students who scored between 62 and 72. Okay, so what is the percentage of students getting between 62 and 72? With the mean of 70.7 and standard deviation of 10.27. If you notice, one value is below the mean and one is above the mean. So first step is we have to compute our z-score. So find z-score for 62 and 72. So for 62, which is below the mean, this will be negative 0.84. And for 72, the z-score will be 0.13. So these z-scores you have to find in the table. Okay, so in the table. So where is this negative 0.84 located? So from the mean to 0.84. So you have to find the area from the mean to 0.84. Because remember, one is below and one is above the mean. So 0.84, the value area between mean and z is 0.2995. So for 0.13, it will be 0.50517. So look up the table for both scores and then you add them to get the percentages. So for negative 0.84, the proportion is 0.2995. So for 0.13, it will be 0.0517. So for the proportion for the z-scores between negative 0.84 and 0.13, it will be 0.0517 plus 0.2995. So it will be 0.3512, and when we convert it into percentages, it becomes 35.12% of the students scored between 62 and 72. So you have an idea of how many percent actually scored between these two values, these two squeezes. And the third one, finding the area above the positive or negative scores of a particular value. Okay, so let's say that you are interested in studying how many percent of the students actually scored greater than 85. So when you say greater than 85, so the z-score of it is, the raw score is 85, so we have to convert the z of raw score of 85. So anything greater than 85, how many percent people get greater than 85? So convert the 85 into z-score. So when we subtract it from mean and divide it by the standard deviation, you get 1.39. So the z-score of 1.39, and then you look at the table. In this table now we have to use the column C because area beyond. So we have the z-score of 1.39, so anything greater than that. So area beyond that particular z value. So the column C, you will notice that it is 0.0823. And then we translate it into percentages, multiply by 100, you get 8.23. So 8.23% of the students got above 85. So it's trying to say that it is much smaller range, because if you notice, it's actually going beyond the area. Okay, so it's like greater than that, it will be smaller, because in a quiz or in a test, it's impossible that everybody gets more than 90 unless it is big in an easier test or they already have the answer schemes. Besides that, mostly it will the high achievers are always in a small number. Okay, so z-score help us to transform the raw scores into a values, into a unit or into a metric that help us to explain or understand about our data better. So why do we do all these things? We want to know better about our data, about our values that we get. So we can able to make comparison, we are able to transform this information into more meaningful pieces that can help us make decisions. Okay, so hope it was clear. Thank you.